Hello my loves, I hope you're all doing really well. If you're brand new here, welcome. I am Esther, aka Miss Manifester. I'm a manifestation coach who specifically likes to focus on changing what's going on the inside so that we get different results on the outside. I'm also I'm also the author of Manifesting Happiness. There it is in the back, which is a 6-month journal to attract all good things. So let's get into it. Anxious attachment and manifesting your SP specific person, or to be quite honest with you, anything. Like these principles that we're going to talk about today apply to manifestation across the board. I just think that they come up very specifically when we're talking about manifesting a specific person, because attachment style is usually formed in our formative early years with our caregivers. And so it kind of only makes sense that it plays out the strongest with other people and those dynamics. That being said, it can be with friendships, it can be with co-workers, it can be with opportunities. And ultimately it's this, I would say, a set of thoughts that are really running in the subconscious programming of the mind that are telling us we're not good enough and that we are likely to get rejected or abandoned. And then what are we left with? What are we taking that to mean about us? And then that manifests as a lot of specific thoughts that can basically make us feel like we have to chase our manifestation, that we're trying to cling to it, that we don't want it to run away from us, like, you know, we don't want to lose it. Otherwise, we're going to basically just feel like the world is absolutely ending. I think it's important to say that through talking about this, if you identify with any of what I am saying, please do not take this as a label, like an identity label, or just being like, oh, so I watched this video by Miss Manifester and I've definitely got anxious attachment. Go do your own research, but ultimately just be self-aware about the thoughts that are going on in your head and how they are making you feel and how they are making you show up. I predominantly have sat in anxious attachment in the past, and that is kind of how because I'm not a psychiatrist, but how I can kind of talk from that wounding, can talk from that pain, because I know how that feels. The good news is, I have done so much work on myself to move to a more secure place. So just to say as well, this video is very much for people who are manifesting an SP who are maybe in no contact, or you're not officially at this point in the timeline, you're not with them, right? If you are with your SP and you are recognizing that you've got anxious attachment and that is playing out in your dynamic and you feel like you're at risk of pushing them away, I'm going to do a whole separate video on how you can come into more security, trusting your person, and knowing how to hold that space, okay? So as we were saying, let me just give you some breakdowns of kind of some of the classic signs of anxious behavior towards your SP, towards your manifestation. So like we said, fear of rejection or abandonment. And what does that mean? Oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. And it's really making it feel like you'll never meet anyone else again. This is it. It's shit or bust. If you don't get this person, if you don't get this job, you're left feeling like you're a failure, that you've been rejected, and that there is absolutely, possibly no way that you could ever have happiness ever again. And that is such a crippling feeling. And it's very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Short-sighted, and it's absolutely not an abundance mindset of there's more out there, right? There's so much more that's out there for me. So much, so many incredibly aligned and beautiful opportunities to experience. We'll come around to the antidote to that in a minute. In terms of not feeling good enough, a lot of the time we are comparing ourselves. It can be to other people. So for example, say you know that your SP has an ex and you think they look a certain way and you're like, oh my God, but they're so beautiful and I'm not. Or It's feeling like I have to, you know, change this about myself before I'll be good enough for them. It can also be when you know that they are, for example, a celebrity, and it's pretty tricky. Like, I totally get this. We 100% put celebrities on a pedestal. You know, we're just the minions, right? We're just the fans. And we separate ourselves. So anytime that you are putting somebody up there as being like super special, better than you, above you, you're not worthy, and it's got this kind of like, you can have this kind of like pick me energy. You know, we don't want to be a pick me girl, right? Or a pick me guy. But when it's just like, hi, pick me, that's not hot, okay? Like, that's just not hot. Let's just call it how it is. The less needy we are, and the more we stand in our power and our magnetism and knowing who we are and actually how lucky they would be to have us, the more attractive we are, the more magnetic we are. So we really want to take people off this pedestal. It's not to say that they're not special human beings and that they're not, you know, we're not trying to like put them down, but we need to bring ourselves up majorly, because otherwise we're putting ourselves in the chaser position. When we talk about that runner chaser dynamic, the anxious avoidant dynamic, like someone's running from us, evading us, and we're like going, come back, come back. And it's because we're kind of like saying we don't feel good enough, pick me, choose me. Celebrities are just people, guys. You know, side note, celebrities are just people. You know, they use the bathroom as well. They are part of the oneness that we all are, okay? Like they are not some sort of superhuman beings, okay? We really, really need to see our own magic and our own light. And this is one thing that I think I want to come on to, is that a lot of the time, like, you can be, for example, just plodding along, let's put it this way, minding your own business in life. You're quite happy, right? Like, you're actually quite content. Suddenly this manifestation comes along, or this SP, and the way I describe it is it feels like a carrot's been dangled in front of your face. And you're like, oh my God, like, I never knew I wanted this. And oh my God, I never knew this was available to me. But now I want it. And then suddenly you just kind of forget like all the other good stuff that's been going on in your life. You forget how amazing you are. Somehow, like, this shiny carrot, this SP, this manifestation becomes everything, like an obsession so encompassing. And you were happy before, and suddenly your happiness depends on having something that you didn't even know that you existed, that you didn't even know you wanted until like 5 minutes ago. And so I'm a really big advocate, again, come to this in a bit, of going, you need to bring it back to you. You need to see yourself. You need to work on your self-concept. You need to work on your identity. You need to see how incredible you are. And you need to tap into gratitude as well, and recognizing like all the good in your life, all the ways you're receiving, all the ways that you're not in lack, to put yourself back in that abundant space. One of the other things about anxious attachment is, I feel, and this is just, again, observing myself, observing clients, observing friends, it is this thing of, I want to be chosen, and we want to feel validated, and we want to feel like we were good enough. Through all that struggle, oh, it was worth it. It was so worth it. I did it. But do you know what? This is a complete side note. I wasn't even going to talk about this. You could have a belief running in the background of, I can't have what I want without struggle, without sacrifice, without strife. Couldn't possibly be easy. There's a lot of people out there that have been conditioned that, like, you have to, like, absolutely slave away, and you know, you might get your dues right at the end. You can't have it on a platter. That is a side note. I think when we talk about, like, I always think about Bad Boys, not the movie. Just the guys, you know what I'm talking about. Guys, if you're watching, hopefully you can relate, like the bad girl or whatever. And it's that feeling of, oh, like, they were the kind of, like, the one no one could lock down. You know, they were the cool one. Again, they have that magnetism, that sort of, like, they sit outside of other people. They're not easily available, not easily available. And the idea that they choose you, oh my gosh, talk about a boost. Talk about an ego boost. There's definitely people out there that actively go after unavailable people because there is something in that for them. There is actually something in the subconscious mind that enjoys that chase, that enjoys the struggle, and they want to feel chosen. They want to feel special by somebody that is not available. We'll often subconsciously pick people as well that will kind of have the traits that I would say maybe bring out the triggers in our wounding. There's definitely parts of ourselves that want to break that cycle, that want to prove those thoughts of I'm not good enough wrong, you know, and so on and so forth. It was never true. And I've done it with this person. But there's also a part of you that you, how can I phrase this? Or what is the phrase? You attract what you know. I've heard that before. I think you attract what you know, or what you are, because that's what's going on up top, rather than just like what you want, right? There are parts of you that is all that is familiar. Even though like at a conscious level, it's like, why would I keep picking this? Because it's nothing but struggle and I'm not having fun. But there's also a part of you that is like, but this is what we know. And this is the version of safety or normal that we're regulated to. And we need to create a new normal. We need to find like a new baseline of what is normal and what is safe. And it's people who are, let's call it emotionally available, show up for us, treat us with respect, love us, blah, 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 all of that stuff, okay? Rather than constantly being in a place of, I never feel enough, and I'm always having to prove myself in some way in order to gain love. There's absolutely a dynamic here of like, I need to gain love or validation or praise. Because it's not this, like I said, this is broad. It's not just about your SP. Anybody can go through this depending on, you know, what it is and what that brings up in you. What the hell have I written here? Oh yeah, chasey, pushy energy. I think this is the last thing I really want to say about like this kind of like the thoughts and the way this is showing up, right? Is chasey, pushy energy. I'm not going to sit here and say you can't like double text somebody, right? Like you can do that. You know, I don't want you to get like nuts about this, but you have to tap into living from the end, right? And the living from the end version of you is in the solution, and they won't be bugging about any of this. They won't be stressed about any of this. They're calm, they're secure, they feel loved, you know, all of that. And sometimes, particularly it could be like, for example, I don't know, for a job or something, like you could keep hounding a recruiter or something like that. And it could just be too much, you know, or like maybe you're being a little bit too, I don't know. People feel your clinginess, right? Like I had it a few years ago with a guy, because like I said to you, I'm predominantly more anxious in my tendencies, but I'm 100% the avoidant in several people's narratives, 100%. I was like, look, sorry, not feeling it. It was like it felt like it was going too quick, and there were a few things I was like, and I just said, I got to slow this down. This person couldn't understand that. And it was quite evident from the language they were using as well that they weren't respecting anything that I was saying. And I felt that as clingy, as pushy. So you have to be really mindful about the way you show up in the dynamics, which I'll come to shortly. I also want to say, because this is just real world talk, right? Say you're out there and you're in the dating world, yeah, and you're looking for people. You could go on multiple dates, and it is okay. Like when you're standing in a place of self-worth, if you go and meet somebody and you're like, do you know what? I don't think this person's for me. Like it's absolutely okay to go, that's okay. This isn't quite the right gel for me. And the same goes on the other side of the coin, if I'm being really honest, that there may be somebody who's like, you're not quite the right gel for me. Now, as you guys know, I'm not saying that you can't manifest your SP. You know that, like you can manifest an SP. But if you did meet somebody off one date and you were like, this is it, like I would 100% be going like, why? Because at that point, you don't actually know that person. Like you don't. You may have an idea of that person and what you think they're like and the fantasy. I know that doesn't really tie into when people like, some people are really into like, obviously everybody can show up as a version of you that you want them to be, right? But to get that attached, let me put it that way, to get that attached to somebody to the point where you are spiraling and you're foggy and you're that triggered that quickly, is definitely something to take a look at. Because that is absolutely, I would say, the wounded thoughts speaking, rather than kind of you being in your self-love and an abundance mindset of like, you know what, yeah, okay, that's cool. You know, like this is the thing with manifesting an SP. The more you are needy and the more you are in fear of losing them, the more you hold them away from you. So actually being able to say, you know what, I think you're wonderful and I think I'm wonderful. And I can, come back to myself and trust that, if this is going to be, it's going to be, but I'm not scared. The more you can kind of make peace with your fears, actually the more you allow them to come into your life. The same with all manifestations. It's the big paradox that, the less attached to anything you are, the more you allow it to come rather than holding it away from you. But yeah, that is just real talk, that if like that comes up that intensely, that quickly, it's something to look at. And I've had that, honestly, I've had that, and I've had to look at myself and go, why? Why? So that comes to my next point. So first of all, like some of the cures to this, or what I would call things that you need to focus on, are not being scared to be alone, but also knowing that, again, paradoxically, the less you feel like you need someone to complete you, the more you will allow someone to show up who complements you. This is not about I have gaps in myself, I'm half of a person, I need somebody to like, click, be my other half. It's like, no, I'm an incredible person, and my SP gets to do life with me. And if, whoever is by my side needs to add value to my life. So this is about really getting into self-love, getting really solid with yourself. But with any manifestation, the more you can go, okay, why am I so attached to this? What am I fearing it means about me or about my life if I don't get it? The more you can kind of feel into that and go, aha, I see you, the more you will be able to release yourself from those shackles. Obviously I've said about self-love and this is so much about, like I said, see yourself as a prize. Think about, okay, what do I add to a relationship? Why would my SP be manifesting me? Bringing yourself up in the magnetism stakes here. Why are they lucky to have me? All of this kind of thing. And honestly, having like hobbies, having fun, having interests outside of a relationship, because again, and I get this, with anxious attachment, you can be spiraling, you could have got really attached to all these anxious thoughts. As soon as you get news, it's like, ah! I'm fine now. And it was because you were like placing all your happiness on that and all your contentment on that, and not learning how to be content without your manifestation. And again, this is the paradox. The more you can be happy, content, grateful, all of that in the absence of your desire, the more you magnetize it. You listen to any Abraham Hicks video, the people show up and they're going like, I'm on fire, I'm great, I'm doing amazing. And she's like, okay, cool, so why are you here? And they're like, oh, but you know, because I still haven't met my person. And it's just like, you can tell, you can hear like the cogs turning, because she's like, here we go. It's like people kind of just, as they're still looking out there, there's still something missing. And anytime you're having all of that, like, I haven't had a text, I haven't had an email, like you're still in that space of not living in the end. So yeah, really, really build yourself up, validate yourself, soothe yourself. You know, by soothe yourself, I also mean regulate your nervous system. So you guys know I love EFT tapping. It really helps regulate your nervous system, calms down the fight and flight parts of you, and freeze and fawn, that are getting activated when you feel that you are under threat. And I personally find the more dysregulated my nervous system is, actually that affects so many things. Like I can't focus, I can't do so many things, and it's just so important to be able to like calm down, offer yourself that safety and stability rather than waiting for someone to give you a text that's going to do that for you. You have to learn to do that yourself. It's like your SP or your manifestation becomes a bit like a pacifier, like a comfort blanket, and you have to go like, no, I need to learn how to give myself that, and not put that responsibility on them. That's really key. You're putting so much responsibility and pressure on that person at an energy level, and maybe even through your words and the things that you're saying and your behaviors. You are responsible for your joy and your happiness, and it's magnetic. It really is. And like, this is what I was saying earlier, observe your thoughts. It could be quite hard once you've got in a spiral. I don't want to affirm that, but it is, because once you're in there, it's like, oh God. The best way I can describe it is, I'm not scared of my thoughts. I don't think you need to be scared of your thoughts. I think we need to watch out for our thoughts when those thoughts manifest into behaviors or a lack of behavior. For example, let's talk about, people who want to start businesses and things, right? Say you've got thoughts running through your head that are saying, oh, well, no one's gonna buy from you, nobody likes you, blah, blah, blah. Then are you gonna show up for your dream? Probably not, right? The same thing goes of like, if you don't trust your person, for example, and then you start kind of constant questions, who's that? Like, who you talking to? Like, if that person feels like you don't trust them, it's gonna put chinks in the connection, right? And I'm not saying that once that's done, it can't be worked on, it can't be repaired. Like, of course, everything is possible. But it's really important to observe these thoughts that are coming through and asking myself, like, are these coming from love? Are these coming from my higher self? Are these coming from security? Or are these coming from trauma, from limiting beliefs, from my wounding? I had this conversation with a friend, and she said it's intuition. But my feeling on it is, a lot of the time, it's not intuition. It's a previous story. It's a wounding that's playing out. It's a fear. And you're trying to get out in front of that before you get hurt again. And I mean, this is probably a whole separate video is feeling the difference, but like, for me, intuition is literally more of a gut feeling, like it's a deep knowing. Whereas if I'm going flip-flopping back and forth and I'm going, oh, what if this and what if that, it's much more like ego and fear and, yeah, flip-flopping. If I'm analysing it, it's probably not my intuition. But that's just my experience. That's just me putting that there. Is sometimes your old story will try to tell you, run. Run before it's too late. So yeah, you want to observe. Long story short is you want to observe. So when thoughts come in, almost see it as like your brain is like a blank Word document, and the thoughts come in like, my SP doesn't like me, and then it's just like, okay, like, cool, okay, I see you. The problem is so many of our thoughts come in and we go, oh my God, it's true. And we need to learn how to lovingly say, I see you, but you're not necessarily true. I don't want to give you truth. Maybe you've took information in the past. So for example, my first ever boyfriend, anytime he didn't want to be with me anymore, I could leave, I could go home, and he would just disappear, like for days. And then I would finally get a like, oh, I don't think I want to be with you message. It was so damaging. Like, it was so damaging. And bear in mind, guys, this is my first ever boyfriend who was absolutely on a pedestal. You know, I went to all girls school, church, all this, you know, I was lucky to have met somebody, like a man of the, you know, well, yeah, someone of the opposite sex, you know, and it was just so, you know, damaging that like now my brain takes 3D information. So it would go silence equals rejection. And actually, one of my greatest learnings over the last year has been like silence can equal people sitting around tables talking about you in a positive way. You know, like your name is being mentioned in rooms you don't even know about. Silence is not always a bad thing. And this is one of the things with anxious attachment is a lot of people with anxious attachment don't deal well with silence. We like to be like, again, soothed. I'm here, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And actually, like, again, with learning to go, I need to soothe myself, I need to be okay with silence and reinterpret silence to mean something new. So it's okay, you have to look at your thoughts and go, cool, maybe where are you coming from? Like, are you part of an old backstory? What new truth would I like to be working on here? So it's when you talk about people affirming your SP, so again, I've got no issue with people affirming their SP, but you could be affirming that and still have this kind of like desperate energy behind it. And it's good to just go, right, I want to affirm that version of them, and I want to affirm the type of person they are. And maybe it's the type of person that they are and not the type of person your wounding was saying they are. For example, going off slightly, but my partner, you know, when he's being quiet, it's got nothing to do with, it doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be with me, it doesn't. But my brain says, oh, that's what it is. So yeah, absolutely affirm your SP, but affirm yourself. You know, you must affirm yourself. You must work on your energy. This is why when people are like, this manifestation technique hasn't worked for me, it's like, you need to work on you. Okay, like you need to work on your belief, you need to work on your energy, your security, your contentment, your detachment. Those are all the magic pieces. You are the key. That's not to shame anybody. Again, side note, I'm really off on one today. When people write, oh, I haven't got my thing, and then somebody writes it back and goes, it's all your fault because, you know, you manifested this. That is, God bless you. I get where you're coming from. I really do, but it's not helpful. Like, you're literally making somebody again feel less than. You might be feeding a self-concept for them of, I'm not a good manifester. I'm broken. Like, shame. Like, you could even like tap into a vibration, a feeling of shame. You just don't want to put people there. Like, let's try to be helpful. Let's try and raise people up. give them nice tips, nice advice. You get it. I think we've got a lovely community here. I really hope that you guys get that. So yeah, learning how to observe your thoughts. I did a lot around journaling with that. I did a lot around EFT with that. And the last thing I want to say is the concept of everyone is you pushed out. We could probably do a whole other video on this. I hate that phrase, and it's because it makes me think of like body parts or like an inside out person. Basically, the way I take it is, just listen to this bit. You pushed out. What are you pushing out? What are you projecting? Are you, because like almost look at like your vision of the 3D, and there's like different projector slides you could put on, which, you know, is this abundance? Is this lack? Is this, is that? And what are you, how are you choosing to see the world? How are you interpreting the world? How are you showing up in the world? Like I said, I always check, like I really pause now. I try to pause. Again, this is where mindfulness and presence come in. Pausing, you're okay to pause. What am I putting out here? How am I communicating? How might this communication be best received? Like these types of things. Because, you know, SPs, manifestations, it's all dynamics. It's all about dynamics. You shift something in you, shift the way you communicate, shift the energy that you put out, you can get a different result, right? So I'm very mindful of, what am I pushing out? What am I putting out in this world? And everyone is just mirroring back to me the kind of energy that I'm giving off, basically, you know? So that is one of my suggestions as well, is just really learn how to go, how do I respond? Here we go. How do I respond as my highest self? How do I respond from my most secure self? What would they say? You know, how would they be texting? What would they be doing? And so on and so forth. Like, we can go into this in more depth in another video. This has changed my life. I swear to God, like, otherwise I'd have just gone round on another spiral. I really would have. I would have just gone on another loop. So I think that's about it. I think that's all I want to say today. Half an hour video. I can't remember if I finished off what I was saying earlier, because I sure do get distracted. But yeah, yeah, it was about when I said about if somebody says like, you know, like I'm not interested and it's been one date, you don't have to label that person up as being avoidant just because they've said that. Like, that's not necessarily true. Like, I've been labelled as avoidant, for example, like when I was on dating apps and a guy said to me, like, did I want to come round? First, I've never met the guy, mind, for cocktails and candles. And I was like, can we go to a bar first? Because I don't know this person. And like, I think you do have to, like, some people might be like, oh, that's just your narrative. Like, you know, guys, you have to be like really mindful about like people. Sorry, you do. Like, it's just sometimes you just have to kind of like, there are aspects of spirituality you just have to go, look, let's just be a little bit real worldy here. And I just went, can we go to a bar? Because, like, you know, and they were like, oh, and then back to mine for cocktails and candles. And I said, I'm not coming to your house on the first date. And after about like several of these back and forths, I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I could tell from this exchange, I said, you're not my person. And they were like, oh, you're avoidant and all this. I was like, no, no, I'm not. I'm looking after myself and I have like some standards, that's all. So yeah, just be mindful. Just think about the way that, you know, like I said, when I had that person being really chasey with me, for example, and it really made me uncomfortable. And it was really great, actually, you know, thank you to that person, because it really showed me what it's like to be on the other side of the, like, that kind of energy. So just think, how would I receive this? Like, would I feel good about receiving what I'm pushing out here? I hope this has been really helpful. I hope it's been valuable. I hope that you've resonated with it in some way. My heart goes out to you. My love goes out to you. I know how anxious attachment can feel really, really scary. It's also important to not let it win. it's not your truth. That's what I'm going to say. It's not your truth. It's just a set of things going on up top that are trying to play out in a very strong way. It doesn't need to. If you want more content on this, please just ask. Keep affirming that you're enjoying it. I'm going to do an EFT for this separate video because I knew this would be long, and I'll do another video like this, but for once you're in a relationship with someone and making sure that this doesn't crop back up. Because I just want to affirm this as well. You can manifest somebody and still have anxious attachment. Like, you don't have to be this perfect person. Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not healed, and it's like this sort of trap. Like, I think you do need to have responsibility and take responsibility for who you are and the way that you are showing up to a relationship. But there are also things that are going to come up in a relationship that would never have even come up when you were single. So how are you going to know about it? It's just finding somebody that you can kind of do life with and that you are able to navigate those waters with. And breathe. I am sending you so much love, and I will catch you all soon for some more content. Big gratitude. Thank you for being here, guys. Bye.